So good morning, everybody. I'm Andrew Jenkins, and this is a short countdown timer to help the various live feeds catch up and settle down. And we can't wait for today's groovy show, folks. And we're going to be hanging out with the very engaging and extremely dry-witted John Attridge, CEO and founder of BBX UK, and best-selling author and keynote speaker, spills his guts on how to start, how to grow, and how to scale and exit businesses. And our theme is his latest book, folks, which is Business Blunders and Bloody Great Ideas. Excuse the French on that. And yeah, just waiting for the feeds to catch up. I think it's red. There we go. We're on. That's brilliant. So we're actually, yep, I can see people joining. Super duper. And yeah, so there we go. And we've got freebies as well at the end of this show. John's got some freebies for us. And give us a quick wave and a quick hello, John. There we go. Fantastic. And Mrs. Moderator herself, Sarah Jenkins, FD of PDX. Say a quick hello, Sarah Jenkins.
Good morning. Nice to be here this morning.
Good morning. And the feed's working. The first comments just come in the feed. Good morning, Mateus. Good morning, Vietnam. And we have Tilly's gang from Marketing CX in the background, just in case the comments don't come through our end. And yeah, so John, me, Sarah, Ghost, our sponsors, and Marketing CX. That's our team for today, folks. Wow. So I hope you liked our groovy opener there. So oi oi people and hi gang, it's the Leaders Live showtime, folks, and it's just after 8:45 a.m. here in the UK, and we are live with Leaders Live, spreading the love, folks. Yabba dabba do. And I hope you enjoyed that groovy opener, gang, and we're delighted that we're being powered by our sponsors, brand and design agency Ghost. We'll talk about them a little bit later in the show. So, and please let us know if our audio is coming through okay too, please. And yeah, so there we are. And if you're new to Leaders Live, a warm welcome to you all. And Leaders Live is a dynamic weekly talk show, if you're new to the show, that generates business through networking, through community, and extraordinary conversations that inspire, just like we're going to have today. And as I mentioned in the countdown, I'm Andrew Jenkins, and I host this interactive weekly Leaders Live show that's built an awesome community of like-minded leaders. And I can see the show's building up nicely my end, so that's great. So please don't be shy. We'd love you to introduce yourself, as some of you have already done. Interact with us during the show. Don't be shy. Pop the comments in as we're going along as well. Ask questions of John, myself, of anybody. Join the show and interact with each other as well. And we have 3 simple rules: a safe community, mutual respect, and please no selling in the room. And our motto is I to the power of we. And a really easy way that you can show your support for this free show that we put a huge amount of time in to make this work and produce it and to broadcast it. You can buy me a coffee, which is buymeacoffee.com/leaderslive. Buy me 5 and you get free half-hour coaching session, folks. What's not to like about that? And it looks something like that. If something like this, if I can do a quick test. So it looks like that. There you go. Isn't that good? So brilliant. So please, if you feel like buying me a coffee, you can do. It's a bit of fun, and it just spreads the love, folks. And smash those likes too, and thumbs up, please. We'd really appreciate that. Keeps us motivated as we go along. Ding, there's the bell. And yeah, just that just enables us to know that you're engaged. So that's helpful. And yeah, please subscribe to our Leaders Live website as well, an email list, because you get leadership skills, teaching value to equip you to lead well, and you get freebies and updates. So what's not to like? And yeah, to make it really simple, we've got a single link tree URL, which will be in the feed shortly. Hopefully, if Sarah can copy paste. We're still working out why Sarah can't copy paste at the moment, but hopefully we'll resolve that today. So phew, put it all together. What have you got? Bibbity bobbity poo. I love that. And let's just bring in our morning guest this morning. So, morning, John Attridge. How you doing, buddy?
All happy.
All happy.
Gotta be happy. I'm always
happy.
happy. It's just the degrees that vary.
Varying degrees of happiness, from very happy to awesomely happy. How about that? And our theme today, John, is your latest book, Business Blunders and Bloody Great Ideas. That's fantastic. What a great title as well. So, get us going, John. Tell us just very briefly a little bit about yourself, some background, and also where we're heading today, John. Over to you.
Yeah, so I started a business community 34 years ago.
Wow.
So businesses of all shapes and sizes,
Yeah.
over 1,000 verticals.
Wow.
So the book is a basic collection of ideas, insights, and inspirations, case studies, and testimonials of my dealing with people of all persuasions in 30 odd countries and watching some of the great things that they did and also observing some of the bloody mistakes that they made.
Equally as
And,
interesting, right? And we can learn from both.
and it's really strange. I do a lot of keynotes, as you know, and I was at the business show at Excel last couple of weeks, and just recounting some of the real life things that everybody can identify with. And you think, if you could helicopter back out of that business as the CEO and have a look at what happened on a day-to-day basis, some of the things that you'd change in the operational structure, particularly bigger businesses, then we as small business owners should be able to learn from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And learn from good practice as well. And when things go wrong and when things go right. So, yeah. And that's what we're going to be picking up on today. So, bloody great ideas and business blunders. So that's where we're heading. Now, John, you had an audience question because we want you as the audience to get going. And as again, please introduce yourself to us. We can see there's a number of people online. So don't be shy. Interact with us. And John, what's your question to get us going today? What's your audience question?
Yeah, if you had one thing that you could change in your business, what would that be?
Oh, interesting question. There we go. And there's a delay in the feed, folks. So we'll pick up on the interactions in the chat and comments. And and Sarah's just posted that in. Well done, Sarah. So the cut and paste is working today in LinkedIn. Yay. Brilliant. Okay. So there's a delay in the feed. We'll pick up the interactions and the comments shortly, but please comment to that. There's your first question. And while we're waiting for that, let's just bring up Mrs. Moderator for a quick moment. Hi, Sarah. How you doing, Mrs. Moderator?
Good morning. Oh, tech issues this morning. So the copy paste works, but the link doesn't. Copying the link still doesn't work, Andrew.
Oh, I see. Dang.
So we're halfway there, but they seem a bit slow coming up the comments as well this morning. So yeah, if everybody can please don't make us feel lonely. Do talk to us.
yeah, folks, come on,
it's
interact
so much
with us.
nicer to hear other people's comments than just us.
Absolutely. So and good morning to some of the regulars, Sarah.
Yeah, actually, we've got a newbie, Chris Darwin, who knows you, John. Who says good morning. So Joanne Anderson, that's a name I don't recognise, and our usual morning Mateus, Joe Cooper, Kieran. I have a Facebook user, but I'm not sure who that is. So that's our mystery person of the day, if you'd like to reveal yourself.
Lovely. Yes, please. Yeah, and Simon Brown as well. Yeah, lovely. Great. Super. Brilliant. Oh, and good morning to Laurie as well, which has just come up. So, yep, and we're starting to get comments from Denmark and Vietnam.
Oh, yes, they're all coming through now. There we go. Good morning, Paul Winfield.
Oh, good morning, Paul. Right, great. Super duper. And brilliant. Okie dokie. So, back to John again. Let's just bring up the guest scene. So, and just before you begin, John, let's just give you a quick round of applause. Hey, feel the love. Feel the love. I hope you enjoyed that groovy build-up. So, and let's just kick off with something here. So, first question, John. In your book, Business Blunders and Bloody Great Ideas, can you bring to life for us, a couple of stories of some big mistakes that maybe companies have made that you've witnessed, and what can we, us as business leaders listening, learn from these blunders so that we can avoid making similar mistakes? Over to you, John.
Yeah, and these are all things that you should be able to take away and implement in your business, at least begin the thought process of, am I doing any of this? And because sometimes you're totally oblivious. Otherwise, if you did understand what it is that you were doing, you'd do something about it. So one of my favourite stories is here in Bournemouth. A lot of people get from my accent that I'm a little south of where most people are listening from today. And
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth. Yeah, you get that from my accent. Originally from Australia, of course, sunny Queensland, where it's beautiful one day and perfect the next. So people ask me, why do I come to the UK? And I said, definitely the weather.
Of course. Yeah.
So I was
well,
driving down. This was in 2019. So I'm driving down on a lovely Sunday afternoon in Bournemouth, and we see a sign says the Pear on Parley. Sorry, Pear on Parley, if you're listening today. Come and try our brand new pizza oven. And we thought, oh, that's interesting, outdoor pizza oven. So we thought that's pretty cool. So up we go.
for England,
Lovely driveway, plenty of parking, everything there. Go in, have a meal, be greeted beautifully at the front door, be asked if we'd like to eat inside. No, the whole reason was that we want to eat outside at the pizza place. So we watch the pizza being made, and we get the normal waitress coming up, and then the waiter asking us how the meal was before we'd had our first mouthful, which is the most annoying thing ever. We're walking out the door, having had a great time, spent £100, and I stopped and I said to my wife, "They've made the 3 biggest blunders I've ever seen in all my life." And she said, "Why? We had a great time." I said, "Yeah, it was fantastic." She said, "Well, the bill was £100. It was decent. There was 4 of us here." I said, "Yeah, but they did. What data capture did they do?" To this day, this was 2019. We haven't been back, by the way, and we should have. We must do it because it is a nice place. But to this day, they took no data capture. They didn't have my name. They didn't have my email. They could have taken my month of birth, any detail like that. That was the first one. The second one was that they didn't understand what motivated me to come up their driveway that day.
Yeah, ask the question.
So instead of asking the dumb question, "How was everything today, sir?" Yeah, and everybody says fine. And here in the UK, even if it's not fine, people just nod their head and say it's fine, just never come back.
Yeah.
If it was in Australia or Canada or US or somewhere, they'd throw a stone at you. If it wasn't all that,
Well, if you didn't come back.
Yeah. So, so they didn't ask us what was the motivation. So if they don't understand the motivation as to why we came into that driveway, how can they focus their marketing? That would be the question. So if you don't understand what motivated people to come and do business with you, and that can be a number of different reasons. I was working, Andrew, with another small chain of Indian restaurants, and we did a 180-day survey, and the outcome was quite astonishing. That it was a lovely chain, and they had those little pretty flower boxes on the outside the restaurant with chrysanthemums and all sorts of things, pinks and blues, and
daisies.
It looks quite attractive.
Yeah.
And we did a 180-day survey, and it wasn't the food, it wasn't the geography, it wasn't the service, it wasn't anything else. 28% of the respondents, mainly women, said that they loved the look of the pretty little flower boxes. So if that was the number one motivator as to why someone came into your restaurant for the first time, you could focus that on your marketing. You could put pictures of them and all that sort of stuff.
Indeed. Make it a
So,
USP.
So getting back to our pair on Parley, they didn't understand the buying motivation. And then the third thing is they didn't give us an invitation to return. So during that, the bill was about £100, just a bit under for 4 people, which was decent. We all had a pizza and a few drinks and whatnot. Part of that was a bottle of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, lovely.
And the bill price was like £28. Now I can go and buy that in the supermarket for 5, 6, 7, £8, depending on where I am. So even if they said to me, "John, I've taken the month of birth, so if your birthday's in July, next June I'll send you an invite to return. I'll offer you a free bottle of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc," so that they've understood what it is that I liked when I was there.
Yeah.
And that's a 28% discount in value for me, but only a 5, 6, 7% cost to them.
To them, indeed.
So there's an example of a restaurant that was surviving despite its best efforts not to.
But the view was good, right? And the weather was fantastic.
The view was brilliant. The pizza was great. As I say, this was 2019. We're 4 years ago, and I still haven't been back. I should be.
Yeah. So those are the little things that make a difference, right? Finding out what your customers, how they got there. And actually, Sarah.
What was the actual motivator? So if the waitress or the waiter came across and said, "Excuse me, sir, everything going all right?" "Yeah, fantastic." I ask, this is the first time I think that we've seen you here at the place. What made you come here? What was the number one thing? And if they keep a drop down record of that, and it'll probably be 5 or 6 things at most, which will make up the motivators. Then you can repurpose the motivators and then putting it out into your market on your podcasts, in your video and all that sort of stuff. And they could have, some sort of reason as to why. So one of the videos I'd have made would have been, here's people enjoying the outside pizza oven, if that was 30% of the responses.
Yeah.
And put it on your website and put it out in your emails and all that sort of stuff.
Totally. Yeah, I get it. And it's actually something that Mrs. Moderator Sarah is very good at, is asking that question, just to be curious, what made you come here, which is what you're saying is just a simple thing to do, right? So, Sarah.
But not how did you find us? That's the important thing.
Oh,
how do you find us is a dumb question. You need to peel the onion another layer.
Okay. Yeah. And ask more simple questions. Yeah. Lovely. Okay. So, Sarah, what's going on?
Oh, let's have a look. So, in answer to your question, if you could change one thing, let's have a look. Kieran says, productizing my time or myself for that matter. Paul Winfield, he would change the fear of accountability.
Oh, interesting. Right.
Matthias, the fear of what if it goes wrong. There's a bit of a theme here.
Oh, yeah.
And
what happens if it goes right, Matthias?
Oh, absolutely. I love I think this is Kieran. What motivated you to come here today? Leaders Live. We do like that comment.
He answers the question as well, which is super. So there we go. It'd be nice to know what motivated you guys to come on this morning. So that'd be really interesting. Yes, thank you.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah, wouldn't it?
So
Yeah.
Put it in the chat because it would be really interesting. That would. And Kieran also says we can learn so much from other people's successes, but also from their mistakes as well. So look at other people's mistakes and go, well, I don't want to do that one.
I'm just looking at Yona says this. What's this? So
you continue to call it an outside oven. I'm confused. Is that not just an Australian kitchen? Yeah, but it's in Bournemouth, so it's not an Australian kitchen.
It's a Bournemouth kitchen, but he might have got it from Australia.
We haven't tried barbecuing pizza yet, but
I'm sure that'll come. There's an interesting comment from Laurie. I don't know whether that's worth picking up, Sarah.
Which one? The shoot you in America?
I was wondering where that was coming from, but I think it was originated. Is it from this?
Oh, it was, right. So, what would you change? More business serious. The US government makes it hard to get a contract without documented past performance / experience, but you can't get that experience without winning a contract.
Chicken and egg. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Any thoughts, John, from the comments that have come through so far?
Just a couple of things. No one devises a business on a worst case scenario outcome. Only the government does that.
They succeed despite themselves, right? Or they probably don't even succeed despite themselves.
That's why they can spend trillions getting it wrong.
And, indeed.
You've got to start a business and with getting it down the track. You can't plan on a worst case scenario. Is what my biggest takeaway from that was. You've got to plan on what your focus should be, starting with the end in mind, Stephen R. Covey, which is another big thing that I can talk about in a moment. But, starting with the end in mind and working your way backwards is one of the big things. So, and dream big. So dream big, have a big, what we call big hairy ass goal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
set that as the destination. So most people spend more time planning their holiday than they do their business. So, and you wouldn't go on holiday without knowing where the destination was.
Yeah. So, and then steer towards that destination, right? That big, hairy goal, as you said. And we've had David Heiner talking about that some time ago on big, hairy goals and set those. John, what's been your biggest blunder, your biggest disappointment or mistake that, you learned from, John?
Well, it was based on not starting with the end in mind. I started my business in '89 called the Queensland Trade Exchange. So it was an idea that I'd picked up, and out of adversity, a little bit like COVID, we had a pilot's strike that went on for 5 months. And every commercial pilot in Australia went on strike. And so I had a car rental business at the time, relying on people jumping off a commercial aeroplane. So a little bit like COVID. You couldn't see that coming, and nor could you see it lasting that long. And so I started my business called the Queensland Trade Exchange, which is a reciprocal trade for goods and services for people who own businesses.
Yeah.
Pre-internet and all that sort of stuff. And
pre-internet,
so
yeah, it was.
I thought, what a great name. I was in Queensland. I'll start off with the Queensland Trade Exchange. The second I expanded into New South Wales, because I didn't have a big enough goal when I started, it became a pretty dumb name, because for people in Australia, it's like saying,
Hey, thanks, Kieran. First coffee of the day. Wonderful. Cheers, Kieran.
So it's for people here in the UK, it's like, starting the English Trade Exchange and then wanting to open in Cardiff.
Yeah.
You don't get a great reaction if you want to be parochial. So
Yeah.
starting with the end in mind sat with me, because, if I had a big hairy ass goal from the beginning, I would have called it Global Trade Exchange or something, because I can always work my way backwards from a big scenario. So, and a lot of people, how many businesses start and they get branding incorrect because they've got too big for where they were, which is what my branding problem was. So if you have the big vision at the beginning and work your way backwards, then a lot of the mistakes that can be avoided easily are avoided.
Yeah, and we've got Ghost, our sponsors, on today, and they're a branding agency. It'd be interesting to see what their viewpoint is. Can you change branding, halfway through? My guess is you can, John, right?
Well, and as I say, if you have the end destination in mind, then a lot of the things fall into place coming backwards.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely. And yet, we might not think totally that big to begin with, like you did with Queensland. You thought, well, Queensland's fairly big, but you could have called it Australia or global or whatever. And yeah, so just thinking those things through is really quite useful, isn't it? And
then
also
then 10xing them when you think about it. So when you think of the end destination, then put it set aside, take a pause, take a breath, and then 10x that thought.
Wow, and there's a challenge for you.
And then work your way backwards.
Wow, I like that idea. That's great. And I think it was Matthias that mentioned, what happens if it goes wrong. And what you're saying is that's probably one of the things that you don't plan on worst case on things going wrong. Plan on what the big dream is, right? Not on what goes wrong, because that will just stymie you, right? I mean, it sounds fairly obvious, but it's amazing how many people's thought processes are just on, well, what happens if it goes wrong, or what happens if this, and let's plan for a worst case scenario.
Yep. And no one plans their life or their business that way, or they shouldn't, certainly.
No.
So as you said it before, let's plan on what if something goes right.
Yeah, exactly. What happens if it goes right? We did this poll, John, just some data. We always like to gather a bit of data on Leaders Live. So, what do you think is the biggest factor that separates successful business ideas from failed ones? And this is the stats that came out. Effective marketing, 19%. A really good idea, 18%. Clear value proposition. This surprised both of us, didn't it? 51%. I mean, 50% on that. That was quite interesting. And a lucky break, 12%. What say you, John?
Well, my first gut reaction was that the majority of the people that answered this poll were coming from a book or an MBA or a bigger business.
Yeah.
A clear value proposition is, all well and good, but unless you've got a bloody great idea in the first place, that's usually the beginning of what it is. What problem do you solve that people will pay to take away?
Yeah.
And we've all seen it, haven't we? I think one of the best quotes, and I think it was Duncan Bannatyne on Dragon's Den, said, you're solving a problem that doesn't exist.
Okay. So interesting. So and actually solving someone's problem is part of the great idea, right?
Well, and that what are the best ideas floating around? And we were just talking about it before on. I did a poll last weekend, and what was the biggest innovation in the last 30 years? And out on top of that, there was the obvious ones that I would have thought, which was the creation of the internet. And the evolution of the mobile phone. But sneaking up there in fourth place already was ChatGPT.
Scary, and people don't even know
it's been out 5 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah. Didn't you say something like in the first? What did you say? The first 5 days it got to what, John? ChatGPT.
It was the first product to get to 1 million subscribers in. It was the quickest product to get to 1 million subscribers in 5 days.
That's incredible, isn't it? My gosh. Yeah.
And it was also the quickest to 100 million. And I don't know the numbers, but it was like 60 days or some silly number like that.
Amazing.
And when you think of Facebook or Google or mobile phone adoption, it had a report that I saw had a scale of how many years it took to get to 1 million, and here we are sneaking up the inside. So
amazing. In a few days. Incredible. 60 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest idea is thinking big, and just have a look at a couple of examples: Airbnb and Uber. They took an old age concept, whacked a different angle on it, and totally, well, they call it disrupted, but it revolutionised those two industries, didn't it? So
yeah,
that was a bloody great idea, wasn't it?
It was. And interestingly, the two, you've cited Airbnb and, other companies that have made huge disruptive change really quickly, like ChatGPT, for example. And both of those are category game changers, aren't they? They, what I would call to be a category king. They changed the game. Airbnb completely changed the game. Apple changed the game. The mobile phone changed the game. I mean, when Apple introduced that iPhone, that was an absolute major game changer, and it became a category king, didn't it? And
yeah.
This is where the bloody great idea becomes something that takes on because it's a category king. Rebecca Jenkins, who's listening, she often talks about, don't just think about, what's, the problem to solve. Think about the transformation, i.e., be a category king and transform something. And what is the transformation somebody will get by buying your product or buying your service? And I quite like that. Let's give you a break for a moment. Go on, sorry.
So just quickly, so not all bloody great ideas are wheels.
No.
Yeah, the wheel was a bloody great idea.
Wasn't
I get
it?
it.
Yeah.
There was
so
no
was fire,
wheel
I suppose. Yeah.
But it's all the modifications since.
Yeah. Like alloy wheels and great tires and
aeroplanes.
Suspension. Yeah, aeroplanes. Yeah, which isn't, brilliant. I like it. Okay, let's give you a quick chat, a quick break for a moment. Sarah, what's going on the feed?
I'm just going to say a quick hello to Jeff Kramer, who
hello,
is
Jeff.
in Western Canada. He's attending because he saw the meeting was starting and happened to be awake at 2 a.m. He's about to go back to bed. So catch us on the podcast is what I would say to that.
Catch us on the replay, Jeff, and great to see you. And if ever you've got the 2 o'clock wake up, then just come and join us on a Tuesday.
Great quote that Jonas has put in from Peter Drucker.
Oh, Peter Drucker.
There is surely nothing quite so useless as doing with great efficiency what should not be done at all. I like that.
Yeah, that's similar to what you were saying earlier, John.
Yeah. Kieran says with the poll, it's nice to see that 90% don't put it down to a lucky break, that it's not the biggest factor.
No, I mean, there's a little bit of factor, isn't there? There's a bit of luck in everything, or a little bit of bad luck in everything. And I suppose, if you're feeling lucky, then, but it shouldn't be the be-all
You
and
can't put it all down to
business.
It's just not going to work.
Yeah, although people in the poll said, was it something like 12% said lucky break? So there we go. So interesting. And I guess they must have still had a great business idea, but they just had a lucky break to begin with, John, perhaps. Who knows?
Indeed. Rebecca asks, what are your top tips, John, to get the next great idea?
Oh, there you go, John. Yeah.
If I'd have given all those away, I'd have that already, wouldn't I?
Yeah. And we can all be millionaires off you then, John, so come on.
I think with anything, the top tips to getting things going is to have a clear strategy of where it is, have a look with the big goal, set about it in the right way. But I think most importantly, and another thing that I always subscribed to, was the 80-20 principle. And many business owners are great and fantastic at what they do, but they're hopeless at accounting or marketing or finance or the other aspects of running the business. And I follow a guy called Peter Drucker. He's passed away, sadly, but he's a pretty famous guy from America back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And he made the observation that 92% of entrepreneurs are product-led, and only 8% are sales-led.
Mm.
And yet he noticed that 80% of the failures were around product-led businesses, and only 20% of the failures were around sales-led businesses.
Interesting.
those numbers are still true today from
Wow.
every piece of research that I've done. So one of the biggest thing is that statistics will say that you're only 8 in 92 of being a sales-led entrepreneur, and therefore, if you are a product-led entrepreneur, make sure you have a sales-led entrepreneur with you as a partner or a substantial stakeholder or your number one employee in your business.
That's really interesting. So, focus on the sales, John.
Well, the
Or at
strange
least
thing is, if you have a business, doesn't matter what sort of bloody great idea it is, and you
if you
don't make
can't
any
sell it.
sales,
Yeah.
you don't have any revenue, and then you've got a hobby, not a business.
Oh, yeah. Now there's a thought that just lands, doesn't it? Thank you for that, John. Brilliant. Okay. And taking that poll a little bit further that we just had a moment or so ago, you're an expert in scale ups and exits. So what tips have you got for business owners listening to start to scale up and grow their own business? Similar to what Rebecca's just said, actually.
Yeah, so you've got the four growth phases, haven't you? You've got startup, and that's to prove concept. That's nothing else but to prove concept. Too many startups start with an employee mentality in mind. And they say, right, if I don't get the 2, 3, 4, 5 grand a month that I was getting at my job provided before I started my own business, then that's a failure. You've got to make sure that there's, like everything, there's a little pot there that you can survive for 12 months without making a penny in revenue. So that'd be the first thing.
Yeah. So have some money behind you so you can cash flow it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Got enough
And
to
too many people
bootstrap it.
try and start a business and expect it to make a profit from day one.
Yeah.
Imagine Jeff Bezos with that theory. I think it was like 18 years before he made a profit.
Was it really?
So
wow.
We can't all get bootstrapped to that value, but that's the first step. And then prove your concept. So, and proof of concept should be up to about 100 grand of revenue. Yeah, and that should only need you. And so if you can't prove your own concept to yourself, then you're in trouble. So, quit early and start something else.
Okay, and that should be you. Yeah.
Too many people hang on to stuff and then try and grow something without water and soil and wonder why it wilts all the time.
Yeah. So if you're wondering who should run it, it's that who will be you, right? So start.
You need to understand every aspect of that business so that you can inspect what you expect.
Oh, I love that. So you can inspect what you expect. Love that. Brilliant.
Because the next stage is when you start to grow the business, and that's when staff come along, and that's where a lot of your problems come up. And I'm sorry to anybody that works for a business out there, but recruitment of staff today is a complete nightmare in today's environment. That's why we outsource to other countries like South Africa for quite a few of our staff. So, start to grow your business by growing your concept, knowing how to operate every single aspect of the business yourself in that stage one allows you then to grow and keep an eye on what's going on so you can focus on what you're great at and like doing, and then outsource everything else. So that's the second step in growth, is to do everything that you love and are great at.
Yeah.
And do not spend any time doing stuff that you're not good at and you don't like. There's two reasons for that. You hate it, what you're doing, and you're not good at it. So you do it badly, and you have a bad time, and you end up with mental health issues because you're doing stuff that you hate doing.
You hate doing. Yeah.
So if you're growing, you need to outsource or make sure that someone else is responsible for all the stuff that you're not good at and don't like doing.
Okay.
That's growth.
That's growth. Gotcha. And then the third step, John?
Then we're into scale up. So now we have to have a scale strategy on, where are we now? We're probably heading towards 7-figure business, and many businesses get stuck at that 7-figure stage.
Yeah.
As you know, I've had 2 8-figure exits, and the thing that gets that from that, it's a real stumbling block and a giant step. It's almost like going from the Championship to the Premier League. It's only one division, but there's a really big gulf in competition, in structure, in ability, in skills needed. So, because there's a whole, it's a different raft altogether. So, planning that stage is then we've got to really refocus on the end in mind. Do I want to IPO? Do I want to sell it to a trade sale? Do I want to sell it to a unrelated partner because they're looking for, I don't know, a client book of some kind. So you've got to really sort of have a look at all the options of how I'm going to exit. And that's when the really big plan has to be in mind. And then you're focusing in on a 3 to 10 year plan on where your end goal is. And that's the trick to get to an 8-9 figure business. I've never been to a 9, but I'm sure that's the theory. So that's that. And then once you know all that, you've got your exit strategy. So you're moving in the one direction, and then you're focusing 80%. This is Richard Koch with the 80-20 rule or Pareto principle, is focusing 80% of your energy that gets you the results, which come from about 20% of your customers. So you need to focus 80% of your effort on the top 20% of your customer base, as an example.
So the intention changes subtly as you're going along from growth to exit, right?
Yep. You can't be all things to all people. So focus on the 20% of things that are going to get you 80% of the way on your journey.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Brilliant. So there you go. Four stages to a business, from the startup through to the sale. So, and all the bits in between. Thanks, John. Brilliant. And John, you describe in your book some of the most successful business ideas in history. What do you think? What do you think makes a truly bloody great idea? Using your language, John.
It's focus on you. Imagine that I referenced the wheel before. Imagine the first person that invented the wheel. We don't even know who that is. So they've gone to the bother of carving out this round object, and then the naysayers come along. That's probably the FD in caveman times, and kicked it over, and it's fallen flat, and said, this is ridiculous. That's never going to do anything. So the best ideas come from the people with perseverance and a purpose that they truly believe in what it is that they've done can solve an issue for someone else, and that's something that we lose sight of. If you can solve enough issues for somebody else, and you have more someone else's, then they'll be prepared to pay to relieve their pain, because there's 5 buying motivations, Andrew, and I don't want to bore people with this because it's there. So the weakest form is curiosity, and then you get to current pleasure, and then future pleasure, current pleasure, fear, and then ultimately pain. So it's the pain that you can solve which will get people to take action now rather than sometime in the future. So,
that's interesting. I quite like that. So just give us that again. So there's sort of 4 pieces to that. First of all, it's the curiosity in something new.
Yeah, so something new and shiny, people go and kick it about.
So, what's this?
Like with the wheel. Yeah.
A bit like Leader's Life, right? So,
whether they buy it or not, who knows? Whereas if it gives them some pleasure in the future, I'm going to go on holiday in 12 months' time, then that becomes beyond curiosity and might be some future pleasure. That's probably going to bring in a bigger percentage of potential buyers than curiosity will. If you peel that another layer and bring it into current pleasure, what if you want to go on a holiday this weekend? All of a sudden you're a little more excited than going on a holiday in 12 months' time, and therefore the percentage of people who will buy that opportunity are increased from the number who would buy it in 12 months' time. So we're now at current pleasure. Now if we move it the notch just one more step to fear, and that can be fear of loss or fear of gain, everything's fearful. It's now stepped up higher than curiosity, than current pleasure, and more people will buy at that stage. When it gets to pain, it's the strongest motivator. I've just had a tooth out last week, and I can tell you that, and we all get toothache on a Friday. Why is that? Because you have to have the whole weekend
or a bank holiday,
before the dentist can see you the next week. All right. But if you're in pain, you'll do everything you possibly can and pay the premium for it to get back to a less painful scenario. Whereas if it's I think if I don't get my teeth fixed in a month or two, that's fear. I might be in pain. That's not as strong as when I'm actually in pain. So relating that to a business, what pain does your business solve? And if you can amplify that pain and make that pain more prolific, if I put my
Prolific.
teeth
Blah,
back
blah,
in,
blah, blah, blah.
um, then you've got more people likely to adopt it. So people will either run away from pain or run towards pleasure. So that's the other side of the business world. If you provide a pleasure business, whatever that might be, then increasing the pleasure or decreasing the pain are the two ultimate strategies.
Yeah. So is there a strategy that says, you could create some pain of not having pleasure then, John?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Brilliant. I love that. Oh, there's an aeroplane going overhead. I don't know if any of you can hear that. So hopefully not. So, okay, just a quick break, John. Sarah, what's going on?
Oh, let's have a quick. Joe Cooper. Yeah, we need to find those pain points. Absolutely.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Very much so. Let's have a look. Laurie Hales, we say in the military also train like you fight. So if you don't treat your business like the real thing, it won't be as successful. Yeah, if you treat it like a hobby, it will be a hobby, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you're training for the real thing, right? Like that.
Yeah. And Kieran, sales solves nearly all problems, says an investor he's very lucky to work with. Yeah. If you've got those sales, then you've got something to work with, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find that. There it is there. So that's Kieran here, Blop. Yeah, sales solves nearly all problems, says an investor I'm very lucky to work with. And that resonates with what you've just said, John, as well, right?
It's the old Gary Player thing, isn't it? The harder you practice and the harder you work at it, the luckier you get.
It's funny that, isn't it? Why is it that the more I practice, the luckier I get? Brilliant.
Yeah, and good morning to Chris Windley, who knows John.
Oh, hello, Chris.
Nice to have you on the show this morning.
There you go. Morning, Chris. Great to see you as well. I haven't been around for a while, so good to see you, Chris. Super. Okay. So just looking at the time, we're okay for a little while. So John, you describe in your book, some of the we've just done that. Sorry about that. Yeah, one of the key messages in your book, here we go. Yeah, seems to be failure is an inevitable part of the business world, right, John? So, how can we as business leaders embrace that, learn from failure, and use it as an opportunity rather than seeing it as a setback?
Yep.
Take it away for us, John.
Yeah, so too many people are focused on not failing, which is just ridiculous. Because if you just focus on that, you never try stuff.
Yeah.
So, practice is an important part of the things, but I have a saying that says with recruitment, for instance, is that show me a person that never makes a mistake. Show me a person I never want to work with.
Right.
Show me a person that makes the same mistake over and over. Show me a person I never want to work with.
Yeah. So the trick is it's okay to make a mistake, John, but the thing is to learn from it, right? Not do it again.
Well, talk about Wright. The Wright brothers.
Yeah.
Did they make some mistakes before they ended up flying? I think they crashed that thing 100,000 times.
Yeah, the light bulb as well comes into mind.
Yeah, old Edison and whatnot. Someone said, "Oh, you're brilliant. You invented the light bulb." He said, "No, I was brilliant because I failed a million times trying to do other stuff."
Yeah, I mean,
so it's if you're not continually experimenting and trying to get better, have a look at people may not know, but I spent 14 years on the ECB list umpires panel here in the UK in cricket.
Okay. Cricket, yeah.
Now, can you imagine 2020 today without Kevin Peterson trying to do some reverse sweeps and the Sri Lankans doing ramps and all sorts of other different shots that had never ever been seen in the game before? And now they're commonplace. It's revolutionized. And everybody can draw the same sort of conclusions in whatever it is that they do.
Yeah.
So if it's not for people trying new stuff and trying to get better than what it was before, trying and experimenting, working out what fails, discard that quickly, and then move on to the rest of the stuff and then practice that insanely, then that's how you get evolution.
Yeah, I remember in the table tennis years ago, decades ago, in one of the Olympic Games, I can't remember which one it was, but the Chinese dominated that particular set of that particular Olympic thing because they were doing the high shots with the serve, right, from very high up which is quite a distraction for the opponent. Never seen that before. And, they absolutely cleaned the, all the medals up for table tennis that year. And talking about shooting great ideas, Jeff Kremer, I want to bring him on because he might be going to sleep in a minute because he's from Canada. He says this, I have several moonshot ideas. Do you have any suggestions for now to get started with a new multi-billion-dollar industry? ? There you go.
Yeah, so that's a $1 billion question, obviously. So
deserves $1 million answer.
The only suggestion I can think of is to think of something, an issue at the moment that is poorly solved.
Yeah.
Whatever that might be.
That creates a pain point, right, that you talked about earlier.
And if you had a magic wand, what would you be able to do within reason to be able to solve that issue and then work your way backwards?
Yeah, I like that. And Rebecca's just come up with something. Here, let's just bring in the moderator. What's going on with Rebecca's brought a comment up?
When you remember
sorry,
me,
Polly. Don't forget the boss,
I don't know. Rebecca says, if you've not faced failure, you're not pushing the boundaries and probably won't get the big breakthrough.
Yep.
I think that's so powerful. That
it's all about, it's like with goal setting with salespeople. Some people set a goal that's well within their reach that they know that they can coast to. And if you set goals that way, then you'll only get a coasting result. So, those sort of things should be a stretch. And when you get there, you celebrate. But it's been a bit of an achievement to get there.
Yeah, and that's spot on for me, Rebecca, as well. Rebecca's just helping me to sort of reframe a failure that I've had quite recently, and just seeing it that well. I could just see a comment of support for you there, Sarah.
No, it was not support for me. It's support for Rebecca.
Well said. Oh, I see. Yes, it is absolutely, Rebecca. Well said. Sorry,
I've got lots of support anyway. It's fine.
You have. Yeah, very true. Sorry, apologies for that. Got you. Brilliant. So look, we're just coming to a point where we're just going to start to think about the end in mind. Thinking about the end in mind, John. And we want to finish on time today, but we've got 15 minutes yet. But finally, sort of thinking about what advice would you give, John, to aspiring entrepreneurs and business leaders who are just starting out on their journey? What do you think are the most important quality? Or I'll come on to that next. So first of all, what ideas have you got for aspiring entrepreneurs and business leaders, John, just starting out? What would be your advice there?
Yeah, there's a whole raft of those, and none, they're probably not new to a lot of people. But one of the things is surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
And that doesn't matter where it is, if they're just, associates initially, sounding boards or whatnot, if you're off in a one-person venture. But it's hard to soar like an eagle if you're surrounded by turkeys.
Turkeys, yeah, spot on. Which is probably a good shout out for for what we're doing here with Leaders Live. Because actually we're building a community of some really smart people here. That are, a lot of them are on today and interacting, where we can all help each other. Right, this is a world where the great ideas come from working together. As Rebecca has said here in a comment, we all need a great support team. And, that's what we're doing here as well. So, yeah, I like that, John. Thank you for that. Yep. What else?
And then in a slightly bigger business, when you start to recruit staff, recruit when you don't need to.
Oh, that's a toughie, isn't it? That's not easy, is it? Recruit when you don't need to. So you're looking ahead, basically, aren't you, for the next step? It's not that you can't afford it today, but we should be able to afford it tomorrow, right?
And you should be putting an iron in the fire in preparation to having a number of choices to make, rather than what most of us do when we're growing a business, which is to panic a point. And so, it should be the other way around. We should have a laborious system in recruiting good talent, because, most businesses, unless you're the McDonald's at Fort Worth that's opened up the other week that hasn't got any staff at all, most businesses that need other people need to make good choices. And what we intend doing in business is that we recruit in a panic and then fire with procrastination, which is the absolute wrong thing to do. So doing it the other way around, recruiting when we don't need to, we make better choices, and they're long-term choices. And some people, I've recruited some people that I've been working with for 2, 3, 4 years before the right opportunity and the right times come along to bring them on board.
Yeah.
But it's been a proper process rather than just putting an ad in the paper and crossing your fingers. And then the other side of that is that if someone's not working out, make a decision quickly, and your gut will usually tell you fire fast rather than fire trying to give people 2, 3, 5, 10 chances.
Yeah. So hire deliberately, but fire fast, right?
Yeah.
And spend your time on that. That's really great advice. Thank you.
And then the next step up, I guess, is when we want to exit for some reason or fire it up to the next figures. And this can be applied all the way back, is to measure and monetize spare capacity in your business. So most people don't even know what I'm talking about.
No, indeed. Yeah.
So an example here could be a hotel. It's got 100 rooms. It sells every room for £100 a night, and it's got 70% occupancy. The hotel owner is usually focused on the 7,000 of revenue that's coming in the door through the management accounts, the P&L and balance sheet, and not paying any attention at all to the 3,000 a night that's escaping through unsold rooms. So every business should be able to measure spare capacity, which is the extra revenue that you can squeeze out of your business without increasing fixed cost. That's the formula. What extra revenue can I get in my business without increasing fixed overhead? Fixed overhead being moving to bigger premises, employing more staff, or that type of thing.
Yeah, quite sensible.
So capture and monetize that spare capacity. Do something with it is the short answer.
Maximize your capacity, squeeze the pips out of it, John, I think is what I'm hearing there.
Yep. And that can get most businesses 30 to 50% increase in revenue. And that all goes to your bottom line.
Absolutely. But is that, John, just out of interest, is that the other, if you're talking about the 80-20 rule, the Pareto rule, which you've used a few times now, is that sort of trying to work out the 80% of effort to fill that 20% spare capacity, John?
No, it's not that amount. You probably need a 20% effort to get an 80% increase in turnover. Yeah. It's that dramatic.
It's that dramatic, yeah. And that's the difference that makes the difference. And these small, what considered to be small efforts could actually be another 30% on your bottom line with no extra cost.
What I'm saying is 20% of effort can give you an 80% increase.
Gotcha. Right. Okay. I've got you. Yeah. So just focusing on that, can give you a massive increase. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
And it depends on, it doesn't matter if you're a web designer, a hotel or a restaurant or anything, you have a look around and see what's not being sold today. That's the easiest observation.
What's not being sold? Yeah, that's the easiest way to look at it. What's being wasted? What's not being sold, and sell it at a different price, right? Perhaps, John.
No, that's the other thing I talk about in my book.
Right, great.
Discounting is for another collective noun starting with a D, but I won't share that on this program.
It's a dumb thing to do, right?
It is a dumb thing to do. We should always be adding value. The example I used with the pair on Parley, they could have given me a 6% discount and I just would have laughed at that.
Yeah.
But if they give me a bottle of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc that represents 28% of value to me that only costs you 6%, then smart. That makes sense.
That does make. I like that thinking, actually. And how many people just don't think that way? That is a smart way of thinking. Love that, John.
How many times do you go down the street nowadays and you see 70% off before you take any notice?
Yeah.
And when people ask, why is the retail sector in trouble?
Because they're selling everything too cheaply. Yeah. Okay. I've got you. Right. Give you a quick break. And then, Sarah, what's going on? There's quite some interesting things that have just turned up.
Yeah. Sheena Walker. Welcome, Ooh. Sheena. She never uses the words fear or failure in conversation, as it sets a poor subconscious message to you personally and professionally that mental preparedness is key.
Oh, I like that. I can't see Sheena's comment yet, so hopefully that'll come in a minute.
It's a bit further back.
Oh, it's a bit further back. Okay. Morning, Sheena. Yeah.
Look, and yeah, and Sheena also says you could add 1% on your prices, and this will give you a huge return on investment. So she said it's not about not necessarily about discounting, because you can just make that pure profit.
Well, it goes better than that. You can do 10 things 1% better and not get a 10% increase in result. You get a compounded effect.
You get an exponential effect. I like that. Super. And I think that was that Sheena's earlier comment as well.
That was Sheena. And
Great.
Kieran also says, yeah, great point. It can be clean profit. A little extra revenue can be a huge increase to profit. Because if you've got all your overheads covered in the first place, then it is just pure profit. And what a relief that can be at sometimes.
Totally.
Well,
Yeah.
and most,
totally.
even little businesses, if you've got 100 grand of turnover business, I reckon I could find 10 to 20,000 of top line profit floating around there, and you're not even seeing it.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? And that's the beauty of having someone else's eyes look at it, John. Particularly with sharp eyes like yours would be very useful. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, do you do that for businesses, John?
On occasion, by appointment.
By appointment, gotcha. Okay, there you go, folks. Yeah. Yeah. So anything else, Sarah?
No, that's about it.
Okay. And yeah, so John, tell us a little bit about your book. Let's just bring that up for a minute. So we get into that time when, so here's John's book here.
Here's where we get a shameless plug in, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but actually more than just a shameless plug-in, you're going to offer some of these free, aren't you, John?
Well, someone convinced me into that, and providing I add value. Dude. Remember, I don't like free stuff, but I always, if I've provided a bit of value, I think if we had the top half dozen or whatever we decided on,
top half dozen
interactors, then if they want to share their details with the show or me or whatever, then I'll send out a copy to them.
Yeah, so easy way of doing that is just, yes, please send me a book in the comments feed right now, and the top 6 with the top half dozen will get a free book. So there you go, nice and simple. So, and there's the book there, Business Blunders and Bloody Great Ideas. We've got the link. The link has turned up in the feed, or if it hasn't, it will do very shortly. That's on your website, isn't it? The Nugget, or is it a Nugget store? Is that your website?
That's the Nugget store, which is one of my customers. They're a good book publisher, and they're the thought leaders in bloody great ideas. Oddly enough, so it's about 1,000 thought leaders from across the world that Stephen Foster and the team have got at one golden nugget, which is what's one little nugget in your business that you can share with everybody else. So there's a big book on that out with 1,000 nuggets in it, which is great reading.
I like that idea. That's really good. And there's a little form here for you to fill out to grab one of these. But yep, first 5 they're already coming. Yes, please. They've got several of those already coming up for you. And John's website here. So just to plug what you do, John. What's BBX? Tell us a little bit more about this, John.
Yeah, so it's the business community. If you think of LinkedIn, but you have to own a business. You can't work for a business to be part of the community. And we have our own currency like PayPal, where people interact with one another, sharing ideas, coaching, insights, inspiration, mentors, events, podcasts, webinars, seminars. So because business can be a lonely place sometimes. So it's a forum for doing that. And then we take it a step further by being able to buy and sell to one another using our own bespoke currency. We call it a digital trade credit.
Wow.
So you can take networking to the next level, which is actually doing business with people directly on a measurable way.
Well, is this a private group, is it?
Yes, it's by subscription only. And you have to go through this rigorous program. I'm only kidding. To have a business, you have to have a business, and you've got to have a problem that you want solved. So you either want to grow your business, get a better lifestyle out of it, or exit it for more.
Yeah.
And if you're that type of business owner, then you'd probably be a good fit for our community. If you're someone that's just happy with what you're doing now, then that probably would not be a good fit.
Perfect. Thank you, John. Brilliant. So there you go. So that's a little bit about John and about his book, and we've got quite a bit of interest for your book, so to give you some value there. So we're going to wrap up very shortly now. Thanks again, John, for enlightening us today with an extraordinary playful conversation. We've loved having you on the show. There's been some fantastic feedback in the group chat as well, so that's great. And this will go on podcast too shortly, people. So well, actually, our Canadian guest, Jeff, you've managed to see the whole show, so that's fantastic, all the way from Canada. So you won't need to watch the replay, but the replay is available on podcast very shortly. So that's that. And please remember to subscribe to our Leaders Live email to get access to our Lead Well value, talking about John's value add, and lots more benefits. And this really does help us to grow and evolve, as well as to help you grow and evolve. And we appreciate you subscribing and your support. And that's really helpful for us so we can help you. And before I get on to what's next week, folks, quick reminder, Leaders Live, it's a free show, folks, for all leaders, directors, managers, entrepreneurs who are interested in business growth through edutainment and enjoy taking part in these extraordinary conversations that we just had with John. So together in this community, we aim to make the world betterer, folks. I love that expression. And we want to bring a spirit of freedom, of fun, of joy, and the feel-good factor in all of our working lives. And why shouldn't we? And just a very quick plug for Ghost. Here's their show reel for our sponsors. Lovely. And Ghost are a brand and design agency with an exceptional team of highly skilled and vibrant people. And they've certainly helped me and my business, and that helped develop and shape brands that inspire our businesses, just like yours, just like mine. And here's Sarah for a very quick call to action for ourselves as well. So over to you, Sarah, for a quick moment.
Yeah, just want to take, before I do that, lots of thanks for John this morning. Really interesting conversation. Thank you. Great points to think about. It's definitely worth another listen, which brings me to saying, if you've enjoyed Leaders Live, tell all your friends. Let's get more people to know about it. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on extra content. Have a look at what else Andrew does. But yeah, it gives you access to the playbacks, the podcasts. Some of these you miss some of it first time around, and they're definitely worth a second listen.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. And we've got new things coming up as well in terms of webinars, so watch out for that space as well in the PDX space. So that's coming up shortly too. And the goose for next week, finally, folks. Next week, Tuesday, the 2nd of May, we're switching things around, and we've got Rebecca Jenkins. Yay! We can't wait. Who's going to be not our hangout guest, but Rebecca's going to interview me, and I'm going to be the hangout guest. So we've done this once before, really popular. So Rebecca's going to interview me, and our theme is how and why expanding your authentic power matters and why it's important for today's business leaders. So we think you're going to love it. So that's a little bit about the goose next week, and we can't wait. So be there or be square, folks. So it's been great to hang out with you today, with all you guys online today. And thanks very much for being part of this awesome show. And thanks again, John, for being a sport and sharing your wisdom and knowledge and your humor with us. And thank you very much. Great to have you on. It sounds like we need another round 2 with John. So please subscribe to the show as well. And in the meantime, it's a wrap, folks. And we're going to just close to our outro closer coming up right now. And we'll see you again next week. And thanks again, John. Cheers for now. Bye-bye. Cheers, everybody. Thanks a lot. We'll just wave goodbye to you now as we're just closing off the show. Thanks again, folks. And that's all for now. And we'll see you again next week. Ta-ra a bit. Thank you very much. See you again next week. Cheers for now. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.